What's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salute, salute, salute. Cheers. Okay. But before we start, let me just share this in social media. I hope you guys are doing well. We have a good show today with my good friend, Maestro Brye Cooper. Let's see. Okay, let me just take this. There we go. So I need to share this. Just bear with me. Okay. So I hope you guys are doing great. Having a good time, getting ready for the weekend. Remember, stay safe. Be careful. Things are not over yet. Okay. So I'm just gonna share this on all the groups. So just give me 1 second or so. Okay, we're getting there. We have a lot of groups to share this with. So remember, if anybody's out there and wants to send a question, we are here for you. Okay, so please send your questions. Make comments. We really appreciate that. Okay, so please leave your comment or ask a question. That always helps a lot. Okay. So before I bring in my good friend, Mr. Cooper, let me just share here. Okay. Good. Okay, we're getting there. Yes. Okay. So, is anybody watching there and wants to say hello? Please do so. Remember, we are here for you, going live through our Facebook page. Okay, Master Frank Soto, Kinetic Dragon. Look for the page. Please like the page. Follow us. That really helps. Like the video. Okay, that also helps. You do make a difference every time you push on a like. We're also going live through International Hall of Fame of Argentina. This nice page created by Master Juan Martín Álvarez. Saludos al maestro and all the people from the International Hall of Fame of Argentina. Buen día, que estén bien. Saludos a todos. We're also going live through our YouTube channel, the Kinetic Dragon channel. Okay, so please subscribe and click on the little bell so you get notified every time we go live. Okay, that usually usually we go live at this time on Thursdays and sometimes on Tuesdays as well. So that way you get notified and you know when we're doing this. Okay, almost done. Okay, so let me just go here. So today we have our good friend, Mr. Brye Cooper, talking about, the combative approach in Kenpo and the martial arts. So let's bring in the man of the hour, the master of the sasta, all the ways from the dark alleys of Liverpool and now Hollywood. Be careful when you're walking through Hollywood. If you find Mr. Cooper, oh man, you are in trouble. Aha. No, I'm just kidding. My good friend, Maestro Cooper, brings a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of understanding into street situations and how to solve the problem. Okay, and that's the idea. Okay, so ready? Yes. Salud.
Good morning to you. Good morning, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers.
Got my Chef Coop cup today.
Ah, nice.
My other passion is a gift. I like to cook.
Nice. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing, mate?
Doing good. Thank you.
Good to be back, mate. Always an honor. Always a pleasure. Always an honor.
I was I was wondering if we were going to have a team to communicate and to talk about, because usually we have problems with our conversations. No, I just wanted to say, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the knowledge and the wisdom, the street wisdom that you bring into all of this. And I think it's really necessary to put some, practicality, or even more practicality, into the arts, into Kenpo, and into self-defense and personal protection. So thank you.
You're welcome, mate. You're welcome. Yeah, it's good for us all.
So what do you want to talk about today, sir?
Oh, I want to talk about this sewer spill we had here. That's killing me right now. No, I'm kidding. I was just talking. We had a sewer spill. I was just telling Frank a minute ago. I don't know really. What we've got any questions? I have stuff we can talk about. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about discussing with you with people is get some feedback and what have you, is situational awareness. And how that is applied in your, how do people train for that, and how do they apply it into their martial arts, so on and so forth, and maybe some of the method things that I do, in street combatives. We have I think I've mentioned this before. Let me just blow that screen up too. There you go. I'll turn this phone off as well. Excuse me.
Okay. Let's see. We have somebody saying hello here. Carlos Villarroel says, boa tarde, Big Masta. Saludos from Brazil, Manaus. God bless. Salute to the master guest. Buen café. Okay, let's see. And we have Mark R saying, Frank Soto back again. I like this regular talks consistency. Thank you, sir.
100%.
A Liverpool accent, not far away.
Not far away. All right, Mark, where are you from? Type us and let us know.
American Kenpo in the UK. Good to see some fellow enthusiasts. Good.
Oh, right. So it's Kenpo. Nice.
I think Mark is from Scotland.
Oh, okay. All right. Glasgow, Edinburgh.
We can get a confirmation from him. Okay. Grandmaster Nathaniel Ortega says aloha. Mark says he's from Glasgow.
Glasgow. Pronounced Glasgow. Although he's probably sitting on the other end of this feed now going, that doesn't sound like a Scottish accent. Yeah, okay. Well, nice to meet you, Mark.
Well, okay, so we can talk about Mary Hallett saying good afternoon from New York. Hey,
hello, Mary.
How are you? Thank you for being here. So you were talking about environmental awareness.
Situational awareness, which is part of it anyway. Yeah. I was just thinking about it last night. Well, I mean, think about it all the time, but actually, I was in the gym and I'm just on the doing my thing. I'm just working out on this elliptical and thinking, oh, nice to meet you, mate. You too, Mark. Nice to meet you, mate. Nice to meet you. Just on some of the past conversations we've had and so on and so forth, you know what I mean? And there's because combatives right now is very popular. It's actually, there's a lot of great teachers out there in the US, around the world. UK has some good teachers that are they're not former, they're martial artists, but they trained in, like myself, like yourself, trained in classical martial arts or systems, whether it be karate, kung fu, so on and so forth. Jiu-jitsu now has obviously been huge the last 25 years. And I think I think what came to my mind is when you asked me a question last time, I don't know how much detail we got into about, what is combatives?
Right.
And I said to you, it's a mindset. And right. I don't know how much I went into it with you in regards to that. And, I'm not going to repeat myself. If I do, just let me know how you mentioned that last time, so people, they can always go back and watch the next.
Please do. We get, people watching this, so it's important. Yes. So please do elaborate.
Well, the difference is like I said to you last show we were on, is mindset. It's a completely different mindset. And then so one then goes, well, how do you get to that mindset? Because if you think about it, most traditional martial arts or dojo, what we'll just call dojo martial arts, mat martial arts, they don't train you for that mindset. They don't. They train you in your hard skill.
Okay, one question from this. Mm-hmm. What would be a regular or normal, the norm of a mindset, and the difference from a switching from a regular civilian, non aware of violence person, or that doesn't accept that, and to a combative mindset? What would be that, like, the main differences?
Well, the main difference is your reality, your knowingness, your awareness, and of what is real, what's real. And most of us, maybe not yourself, not myself, but and others, but the majority of like people who train self-defense martial arts don't actually really have an awareness of what is, what will really happen on, God forbid, on the street. You know what I mean? They don't, and I think I touched on this briefly. I'll just briefly touch on it again.
No, doesn't matter.
Last time is to differentiate the two is like, for example, I think I used this example last time, but you can train for years in a certain discipline. In all walks, even up into the military, you can be trained for years, but when it actually comes to it, not so much in the military, but it depends on what branch of service you're in, but you actually won't pull the trigger, pardon the pun. You won't, because it's like psychological, and it's that psychological. And that's because most of us aren't born to walk around with that mentality, that mindset. And so, and neither should you, because we're social animals, you know what I mean? We should be obviously living in peace and not in war, But
violence, it's part of human nature, right?
Well, violent conflict, violent conflict, because just to make that different, and I know you know the difference, but that differentiation, because a violent conflict doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to the physical, but it can just be soul destroying. I mean, if you look at, I'm going to deviate a little bit now, and I'll get back on it. But that starts when you're a kid. It did with where I grew up, getting bullied, getting smacked around, not knowing. I came from my first experience was that I was like, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. That physical hard getting hit by other kids, like kicked hard in the head and stuff. And it was shocking to me. Well, you carry that stuff, that impinges on you, you know what I mean? And then it doesn't have to be that, but those social things affect us. Now, on the flip side of that coin is you may be raised in in an environment where you never had to experience any of that. It was, I said, I'm growing up in the, in the 70s and 80s and stuff. It was different,
For sure.
You may have a great family, great school, great education, all that stuff. You've never had to experience any of that. Well, to make the paradigm shift that's required to defend yourself in a life and death situation, or even just in a violent confrontation, again, whether it be physical or emotional, is hard for a lot of people because it throws them off. It's like, again, I do these drills, bottom drills, and I use this example when I'm teaching bottom drills, and 99.9999% of the time I can get people to react to it.
Just to add to this, when you're in a dojo environment, usually the instructor, us, look for a nice environment, right? Because you want people to have fun, right? To socialize, have fun, come back to training, to empower them, so on and so forth. So not necessarily in a martial arts environment, you're going to put them into the stress or do like stress inoculation, self-defense, or street oriented. That for that, I believe you need to have like special workshops or special seminars or special classes where you tell people, look, this class is going to be about, putting you there in that stress response, mode, so you can feel it. Because if you do that, like, for example, if we did that every class in a dojo, you will get post-stress, syndrome or symptoms.
You put them in a PTP, present time problem, is what I call it. It's a PTP. And you don't want that because you're not looking for that. But the thing of it is you also have to remember too, and yes, you're right. I think we talked about that before too. You can have your own separate, like I have. I came up in predominantly American Kenpo.
That's what I'm trying to say is, I think what you're saying is very important, because a lot of dojos don't do that. I know you do. I mean, that's your approach. But a lot of dojos, especially if you're family oriented, you don't want to do that, right? It's hard because you want to keep that family environment and that positive environment and that discipline and all of that. So it's hard to put them in that spot.
You just have to offer it. Yeah, 100%. You don't want to lose client, and you know, if you're in business for it. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a lot of different sources of income and stuff, so I don't have to have a big student body. It'd be nice, you know what I mean, to be able to have more people in for that. But if you're running a dojo, especially in today's society, you don't. You want it's business. You want the money, but at the same time, I really believe. I don't believe it. I fucking know. Pardon the French. I know it. You have to have that for you, especially for your. Because here's the thing: most people, when they walk in, I did it. When I first started training Shotokan, that school had been there for where I lived, grew up. Had been there for a few months or so, and I knew about it. And because some of the guys that I grew up with, older than me, some of them quite odd lads, you know what I mean? And they were drinking the pub, they were scrappers, you know, and they were doing it. They jumped into this karate school because it was where I lived. It was like when that opened, it was like, wow, it wasn't like here, there's one on every corner, you know. It was a big deal for us. It was a local youth centre. And I thought, the lads were saying, oh, you should come up, Brye, you should check it out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Well, I got jumped coming home one night from the pub. And I was already young. I was 17, 18. And people I knew, they just got the drop on me, you know. I didn't expect it. But anyway, I was fine. Cut a long story short, I was fine. And cops showed up anyway and then just kicked us up the arse and sent us home. But I went home and I'm like, right, that's never going to happen again. You know what I mean? Oh, we are, you know. That's not going to happen again. I thought, I'm going to go train at that with the lads at that. I'm going to check that karate studio out. So my point being is like, and that's an introduction for a lot of us. You know what I mean? And that was the next step for me, because I've been bullied as a little boy. You know what I mean? I was that quiet little boy. I got bullied until I got into my 12, 13, and then I went the other way, because you take on what you know, is you take that on to try and survive. The point is this. So I went from learning that street stuff and how to be that way to then going into a more curriculum-based, like karate school, form of fighting and self-defense and so on and so forth. So when people walk through that door, the majority of people walk through that door, if you've got on your front awning, you know, or on your window, self-defense training, well, that's what it is.
Right.
Otherwise, otherwise you have a competitive sports contact training.
Okay, but I gotta add something. It does. We're not, just for people that are watching this, because we have talked about this. We're not trashing martial arts, right? We do believe we are both martial artists. We are both high-ranked black belts, and we do believe in the arts. But what we're trying to say is that you need to do that extra thing, right? Martial arts work. Martial arts dojos and studios are great. By all means, keep on doing it. Yeah,
100%.
But it will be a good thing to add to it, right? Let me just bring some couple of comments before we continue. Don't worry, mate. We have time. Heiko Niederhausen. Good afternoon from Germany. Interesting
afternoon,
topic. Hello, sir. I hope I said that well. Okay, Mark says, interesting what Maestro said. The violence may not be physical. It can be mental. It can be soul-destroying, as he said. Self-defense starts in the mind, doesn't it? As Kenpo teaches. Yes. And Kenpo is a good art for it. It's a great example. Thank you. Mav Orman, Maestro. Interesting reactions from confrontation physically and mentally. Not many have a switch to control all situations. Thank you, sir. Yes, agree. Okay, so yes, for example, Kenpo does have that, but what we're trying to say is sometimes, I mean, especially when you have a business, right? And you're running a dojo and you have families, sometimes you just stay with the curriculum and you stay with the positive environment and you don't put people into that. I mean, and we're not saying go out to the street and pick a fight. Please don't do that. That would be the worst idea. But be ready for it. And I understand what you're saying, Maestro, because if you've never felt a violent person on top of you, trying to hurt you, to really, really maim you, right? To just going at you, and that primal violence that comes from fighting, from aggression, from somebody trying to destroy you, so to speak. If you have never felt that, once you do, it's if you're not ready, ay caramba. I mean, really, I have felt that several occasions, and it's not nice. It's not nice. I distinctly remember the first time that happened to me, and it was, oh my God, I was, I mean, I've been into fights since I was a kid, but it was particularly one that I remember. I was like 10 or 11, and I got this other kid who got me in a headlock, and I didn't know what to do. And I felt that breathing, and I felt that I thought I was going to die. And after that, I got into martial arts.
Yeah.
So
different. Just to piggyback off that, what you're saying is yeah, I'm not saying that at all. I've got you, because you need martial arts training.
Yes.
It's like, if you just don't want to do martial arts, but you just want to be handy with your fist, or better with your fists, to get to that level, then you got to go learn to box.
And I know you mean this, but if people haven't heard us, that's because we've been doing this conversations for many shows now. So that's our angle. Please continue. Sorry.
So you have, what I'm saying is, it's stages of learning, is what I'm saying. So you have to learn that hard skill. You have to learn some hard skill. You can't just learn the mental side of combatives and stuff. So you have to have a foundation. But at some point, you have to go, okay, like I call it the R factor, reality factor. You know, it's not on this, it's on our other logos. But if you don't have an R factor with it, so what is the R factor? Because if I don't have an R factor on it, I won't train for it. You won't train for something you don't have a conceptual understanding of. You won't. You'll just go back to what you think you know, or what somebody's telling you, and then you'll just do it by rote. So if for example, my foundation obviously is American Kenpo, because I've been doing that the longest. And you go, for all the Kenpoists out there, I tell people all the time, it's like, stop training the techniques. You know what I mean? You've learned the technique. Now you want to be trained. And what happens is you can get in any system, if it's not contact, like I've mentioned this to you before, I think things like jiu-jitsu and grappling arts and stuff, that's different, because it's a constant contact and it's constant movement. But in systems like American Kenpo, we do sparring and stuff like that, and that's all great, because it's basically range fighting, because it's range fighting, you know. And so it's whether it's point or even, you know, if you had to use it on the streets. Anytime I've had to use Kenpo, and I have, you know, that's not unfortunate. It is what it is. But it's never been where point. It's been this close every time. It's been that close. And all it is I just got the drop on them before they got the drop on me, you know, because it was coming. I have defense conditions and levels where it gets to a certain, I told you this before, it gets to a certain point, all bets are off. You got to move. You got to be first. But anyway, so you have your,
and that's where the combative mindset comes in, right?
100%. You have to have that training. I'll give you an example too that maybe somebody can relate to a little bit easier. Is you join the army or the military. You go in for your basic training. They're not going to give you a rifle straight away. They're not. You have to first. They're going to get you in shape. You're going to get, because you walk in like a donut. You know, not always, yeah. But they're going to get you in shape. They're going to restart reconditioning your mindset, your mind as to what, so that you'll. When you're doing that, it's the same thing in combatives training. People can look at sometimes and they say to me, "Oh, you're intense. You're intense." I'm not intense. I'm not trying to dominate you. I'm trying to enhance you, and I'm trying to give you put you on a new path. If you won't make that shift, that paradigm shift, unless you go through this training. So you'll go in and you'll learn. You'll get you physically in shape, and then they'll start teaching you basics, just basics, whatever, you know. Even if it's just drilling, marching, stuff like that, stuff to get you in the same mindset so that you're all on the same page. There's reasons why people drill, why they drill in the military. It's not just so you can look, everybody looks pretty, Mark. There's a reason for it. You know what I'm saying? It's cohesion, among other things. But then the next level you'll go to is, you know, you may be introduced to firearms, or probably, you know what I mean? And then you're not going to get any bullets. You're not.
Well,
They don't give you bullets on the first
no.
day. You know, you don't. First, you got to look. You got to introduce you to that weapon system, how it works mechanically. Blah blah blah. Which you do the same thing in your martial arts. It's the same. It's a viewpoint. If you have this viewpoint, you learn the mechanics of it, and so on and so forth. And it's it's gradients. It's a gradient. So you learn the mechanics of that weapon system, or for us, it's like how to punch, kick, blah blah blah. You'll also learn its capabilities, what it can and can't do. A pistol's not going to do the same thing as a rifle. As a punch is not going to do the same thing as a kick. If you get my drift, everything's different. An elbow's different. A poke in the eye's different. But that's Mr. Parker's. In our system, we talk about specialized weapons and targets, right?
Right.
So we learn all this. You might learn for the Kempoists out there. You'll learn finger set. Bob, finger set. You go, okay, good. I'm actually going on the tangent now, but so I'll just finish this point real quick. So you get to that, you learn the weapon system, and then what happens? Then they take you on the range. Now you're going to lay on the range. Next year, you're going to lay prone with everybody else, or get on a 100-day position, and they're going to give you 5 rounds. They're going to show you, and you already know how to load it and do what you do. They're going to make sure that everybody's on the same standard operating procedures. Everybody's doing the same thing. Then you're going to shoot that weapon. And unless you're just a natural or you've already been a shooter before you get in the military, you're not going to hit the bullseye. You're not. It's just impossible. You might get it some beginner's luck, or you might be a natural, but you're not. So you're going to do that over.
Like make a group or be consistent. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen at first. You might, you may get on target, but to get into that 100 yards, 1 MOA, forget about it. It's not going to happen. You strive to that. So you learn that next part. Okay, so now I learned to learn that. You learn how to shoot. You know how to handle that weapon. And now what have I got to learn? Tactics.
Tactics, yes.
Tactics and strategies. I have to learn tactics and strategies. And all the while that this is going on, right? Put this in a martial arts perspective, anybody who's listening out there, whether you're doing Kenpo, Jitsu, Taekwondo, I was going to say that, Aikido, Taekwondo. While all that is going on in the military, right? You're also being taught theories, and you're getting conditioned in the soft skills, the mental skills. Okay, you're being disciplined. You're marching. Just to put you all on the same track. You're doing all this. There's obviously more to it, but we do the same thing, or you do the same thing in your karate studio. If you're going every day, like some of us who were like really into it, with it, I was there 6-7 days a week because I loved it. A sense of purpose. It wasn't that I wanted to be a crazy-eyed killer. I loved it. It gave me a sense of purpose. And so the same. If you look at the analogy here, so the same things. So you're in the military, and you're learning all this stuff, so that when you actually get out into the field, if you get deployed, you know exactly, everything. Before you pull that trigger, what are you using? Your sensory perceptions, your awareness,
and still the experience. It's on the field is never going to be the same that a training camp, right? I mean, you still have to. You still have to balance that. Hold that thought, sir. We have people commenting here, so let me bring on the comments. Ernesto Colbrenet, salud maestros, Casa de la Cultura China, Santa Fe, Argentina. Salud from the heart. Saludos. Okay, Mary Hallett says, we definitely need to be put in those situations in order to stay sharp in skill and mentally sharp. Yes, one will never understand what fortitude really is without it. Thank you.
Right. 100%.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. We have a warrior here. Nice. Good. Claudio Marcelo, very interesting vision. In many professions, self-defense is a necessity, and in this society, it will depend on each one. But it is very necessary. Greetings from Chile. Thank you, sir. Gracias. Saludos. Okay. Mayor Vorman says, the problem teaching our system, its content, trying to make it viable commercially. We teach many movement, and if the subject stands like a clothesline instead of alternating weapon to appropriate target, then another target presents itself, dominate the mass, don't force away, drop, etc. Okay, good. Thank you. If you want to say something, please interrupt me. We have one more comment. Marshall Rao, salute, sir. When the mind shifts into gear with the body, then the intangible becomes tangible. Not sure if That is the exact quote. Ed Parker Sr. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Okay. So you want to say something about it? I know you, sir. Go.
Yeah, well, just to finish that. So,
Oh, yeah, please. That's the whole point.
It's piggybacking off what you were saying earlier about I'm not saying don't train martial arts. You have to.
Oh, yeah.
You have to train some kind of art, right? So anyway, so you got that scenario. So now we get into strategies, weapon tactics, different weapon systems, all that. But the main thing is when you get on the ground, and it's just no different than it is for, in civilian life. What's the number one priority of self-defense? Environmental awareness, right? Situational awareness, they would call it. So what does that mean? What does that mean to you? You know, you being taught? Because it's all very well for us to, and we use these buzzwords and phrases all the time, you know, in our system, because we came up in Kenpo, you know, environmental awareness. And I said, what's the number one priority? Environmental awareness. And then just turn around and say, okay, good. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. What does that mean to you? That means that you got to know what's going on in the environment. Yeah, 100%. It does. But then what? So let's say something changes. Something shifts in your environment, the atmospherics change, or something shifts. What do you do? What do you mean? Well, do you do 5 swords in the air? What do you do? I mean, what do you do? You're going to stop and just, things have changed. Let me just go through form 4. What do you do? You don't. Yeah, I love form 4. I spent a year doing it. Oh, that's another story. But yeah, Larry did that for me a full year in that garage dojo of lights. All we did is every time I went to form 4, I loved it. This is a great form. But we're digressing there. But anyway, so what do? You go, okay, good, excellent. So you're at this level now. Different people have different break this down differently. I used to what I call DEFCONs or defense conditions. There are different, you know, people have different situational awareness. I think I was listening to stumbled on a guy a couple of months ago. I was listening to a Tim Larkin, who's a self-defense expert out here in America.
Right.
And he had a guy on from England, and I think somebody had mentioned this guy's name to me before. Because when I watched him, I was like, oh, his name's Lee Morrison, and fellow Brit. And I was watching it. He did an interview I was watching Tim's podcast, and Tim had this guy on. I was like, oh, I'll check this out. This is, I think, in May, June, sometime. Anyway, and for anybody out there who's interested, he does a system called Urban Combatives. Like I said, there are other people out there who are with this approach. You know. He may not be for everybody. He's a bit salty, you know. He's a Brit, and I like that. You know what I mean? I can relate to that.
Right.
But he was talking about different things. I've watched a few of his videos actually. It's actually kind of interesting. It's like I'm listening to something. It's like listening to yourself. You know what I mean? And that's because we have the same age range. We have the same R factor. But you would probably think the same too. Anyway, he was talking about, you know, I don't know if you've heard it, Jeff Cooper's color code for situational awareness. I checked that out, and that's interesting. You know, it's the same as I do the same thing, but I don't. I call them defense conditions, but pretty much it's the same thing. It's like, where do you go, and what level is going to affect your mindset? You know, where are you? Because, like I said, what are you going to do if you're not sure and somebody's across the street and they're checking you out and you're just in, you know, what I call defense condition 3? You're just like, you're aware of it. You're on it. You're not intimidated. You're not, you know, you could be nervous, whatever. Jeff Cooper. Yep, it's Jeff Cooper. And it's a great reading, by the way. Anybody who's watching this, you should check it out. Just Google it and you'll get the best conceptual understanding of where I'm going with this. Well, you need to be able to react at certain levels. You know what I mean? Right. It's like if I just trained in a technique line or one-on-one for years, which I did, you know, in Kenpo and in different things, you know, and then sparring and all that, you know, you get a few in, they get a few in on you, and boxing when I was boxing, but it's all competitive, it's all competition. You know what I mean? And the rules to it and blah blah blah. So then you get out on the street and you've spent years and you've got your black. You know, I shouldn't even say black belt. You should be. I'm a big believer in this. If you've come into a few classes, you should be effective by the time you walk out after a few hours.
Sure.
Now you're going to be as effective as me or you or somebody who's been doing it for years. No, of course you're not. But you're going to be a lot more effective than you were when you walked in. The only way you're going to apply that, though, is if you've trained your mind to do it and also recognize exactly what level you're at in that situation. What level is it? Is it 3, 2, 1, or Jeff Cooper? I think he has 4. He has white. He does have 4. He's white, orange, white, yellow, orange, red. Anybody who's watching, you can check it out. It's the same thing. I have 3 because my white. You have to read it to explain it. He basically, white is where you're maybe at home and you're in a safe environment. You don't need to be switched on. So he has 4, white, yellow, orange, red. I do defense conditions 1, 2, and 3. My white is just is a given. You're at home, you're with the kids, the doors are shut, locked, everything's fine. It's when you step outside that you go into your defensive mode. Oh, I've told you this before. I term it defensive DLM or SKS, defensive lifestyle mindset.
Right.
And so you're not going to go through life again paranoid. Oh man, I'm anticipating trouble. No, because you don't want to be in those. You shouldn't be in those environments anyway. But if you are,
but still, there's. I'm sorry I interrupt this, but this is important because there's a misconception about this. Being aware is not based upon fear, right? It's based upon consciousness, connecting yourself to the environment. Be aware of the variables, so to speak, right? Be connected to people. It's about understanding that you're not isolated, that you are walking among people and you don't know what kind of people is around you, right? Like I always give the example, like when an animal is walking, I don't know, through the savannah, for example, right? You have a gazelle just hopping around or whatever, and they're not thinking of, oh my God, there might be a lion there or a cheetah who's going to eat me, right? They're just walking around. Now, when they see that animal, they walk away, right? If they see a predator. And if the predator starts persecuting them, they flee, right? They go. And then once the threat is over, they go back to normal. They're not thinking the rest of the day, oh my God, that lion wanted to eat me. Bastard, right? So I guess that's part of that combative mindset, right? To be able to deal with it and accept it and let go.
The combative mindset is developed around that inherent natural thing. What that you'd explain in there with that, that with Bambi and the lion, it's inherent.
Yep.
It's inherent. It's like if you watch animals, like I'm a big animal lover. I have all, I've got fucking squirrels coming through the door. I have a possum now that shows up every night after.
I've seen it. What's his name? Norm, is it?
Well, I named him Norman, yeah. And but his hearing is so switched on, Anyway, animals are a great study, but that's inherent. It's inherent in all of us. It's inherent in all of it. How many times have you been in a situation where oh fuck, this is not good? It could just be anything, like you think there's going to be a road accident, or it could be anything.
And there was another. I'm sorry.
But you don't react to
it. Please. I just wanted to say something fast. There was we like a month ago or a month and a half ago, we interviewed Grandmaster Rorion Gracie, and he gave a great example. He said, "You got to be ready all the time, right? If you go into the gorilla's den, right, at any time of the day, if you go there and you go into his into his den at 2:00 in the morning, you're in trouble, right? That gorilla is gonna destroy you. If you go there at noon, you're still in the same trouble, right? If you go there in a week from now, you're still in trouble. So the gorilla is not going to say, sorry, I haven't trained, I wasn't ready for this. Would you excuse me? Would you be easy on me, please? Right? He's just prepared all the time, right? So that we're talking about that same thing, right? Before we go, let me just bring some of the comments. Let me just bring a comment, please. John Gonzalez says, at 17, I got into a brutal fight with an adult Vietnam vet. He wanted to kill me. I ended up stitches on my forehead, hit by an object. If I didn't hit him with a spear finger into the eye, which ended it, I was on my back, I would have been worse off. It was real, was at the time training in Kenpo. It was life or death. the fight went from 0 to 100 in a matter of few seconds. Probably
Millisecond.
probably less than that, and you don't realize, right?
Millisecond. Yeah.
Yeah, milliseconds.
Because the fight
exactly.
Well, that's a great point. If I make
Thank you for sharing, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. So we look at that. I mean, it's funny. I've been in those situations too. I mean, I remember we've all had those situations. But anyway, but what I'm getting at with this is then, and he was able to do a poke him in the eye. I mean, I had somebody on top of me many years ago, jumped from out of the shadows and off some steps. So his weight took me down. It was on top of me. Excuse me, it was years ago. And it was strong. The fucker was strong. And I managed to slip my hand through and just bam, and I hit him, chopped him right in the neck, and he just collapsed. Now, if I hadn't like some martial arts training, I wouldn't have thought about to do a karate. I mean, I'd watched some Bruce Lee movies and stuff. So it's effective, but the thing of it is I'm not going to go into details about that. But if I was to ask this gentleman, when did you know it was happening? When did you know? I mean, he may have just been standing in a line or a bar or something, turned around and the guy just nailed him, and then it is what it is. You know, you've only got an edge. We're not Supermen. We're not, and you know, good ones will always be good. Big good ones will always be big little good ones or whatever. Because it's just life. But if you looked at it and went, because this is where I'm getting again with combatives training, is when did it happen? When did you know? Because I can tell you, for all the stuff that I've been in over the years, and most of it's not physical. Very rarely it actually comes to physical, right? I mean, that's for me for years, but
yeah.
But when did you? And then the reason it hasn't is because I knew. And so if you know prayer before it gets to physical, then you're going to be able to handle it. You can get, de-escalate it. You can do it by posturing, compliance posturing or whatever. It's stuff like that where you just basically going, oh, hey, please, I don't want any trouble. But in your head, you get closer, a bit closer, bang, and then it's gone because you've already made the decision. If you're in DEFCON 1 or whatever condition, Jeff Cooper's is red, his condition red, not condition, stage red or whatever, level red or whatever, you already made that decision. But prior to that, it's what's important. How come you didn't, like I said, if you've trained in the dojo for years and you say, what's the number one priority, self-defense, environmental awareness? Okay, what does that mean to you? You maybe get a few sentences on that from somebody. Basic. Well, it just means that, be aware of your environment, make sure there's no trouble, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. So take this as an example. So you're in an environment, you're waiting for a bus or a taxi or whatever, an Uber now, and it's kind of maybe not even seedy part of town. It just might be late at night. It's the weekend. People have had a few drinks, which is usually, where it all starts, isn't it? And the bars are emptying out, and you can see across this bar next to you or across the street, there's a bunch of rowdy guys, and so we're at so you pick up your awareness level. I think, like I said, Cooper would call that, Jeff Cooper's, that would be his yellow. You know what I mean? Potentially stepping into orange. Now, for me, that would be DEFCON 3, defense condition 3. Potentially stepping into defense condition 2. It's the same thing. Again, it's just different terminology, but there's plenty of people out there that have the same viewpoints because it is what it is. So you go, okay, so now what changed? If you're on a shift into defense condition 3 into defense condition 2, what changed? The environment, right? It did. The environment changed. The atmosphere, everything changed. If you haven't trained for the next step, you're going to get caught out. We had words on an escalator. Well, there you go. Thanks, John. Thanks for that. So you can and you, because if you don't have to give us any details, John, I'm sure it's probably a few.
No, but thank you. Yeah.
But you knew, right? And and I'll ask you now. I'll ask John, anybody out there, all of us. You go, okay, because that's usually how it starts. You go, so, well, how ready were you? Because it got to the point where you were on the deck and you had to put your finger in his eye. I mean, could it have got, if you'd have been trained
we have to think, he was also 17, right? Maybe when you're in that age, you just, you don't care or.
He said he trained Kenpo, right? He said he was training Kenpo.
Right.
Right. So my viewpoint is this: you're training the Kenpo, and let's, I don't know what rank he was at the time, but let's say he was a mid-level blue belt or whatever. I don't know. When did you first learn about environmental awareness? I'll tell you when I first learned about it, immediately, because I bought the books and I was reading them, and it's in there. You know what I mean? So okay, environment. All right, good. Oh, number of it's book 5. It's in there. Priorities of self-defense. Right. It's right there. So I knew, and I go, okay. So, but this is going back years ago. But if you'd have asked me then when I'm reading it, okay, Brye, what does that mean to you? I'd give you this same answer. It means I got to be aware of what's going on in the environment. 100%. That's where it starts. All right, mate. That's where it starts. But then you go, okay, what happens when then it gets to the next level? How environmentally aware are you? What do you do? Do you wait? Do you go, oh, this looks like it could be trouble, so let me just get me mental gi on, tie me mental black belt, and get ready? That's not the way to do it. Not because it doesn't mean that you can't be effective and end the fight, but you have to do things before that. 2 reasons why. Most importantly, because you want to avoid that altercation if you can. There's always somebody better than you. Always. There's always somebody going to get the job. There is. And so you're only going to live by the gun, die by the gun. If you're a gunfighter, at some point you're going to get shot, So, and you're actually gunfighting with people, So what do you do before? Yeah. So what do you do before that? I just don't know. I just was waiting. Well, what are you waiting for? Why don't you get the fuck out of there pardon the French? Why don't you get out of there for one? You know what I mean? Why are you sticking around? If you had nowhere to go and you had to be there, you were trapped in that environment, what was your next level of where did you take it to next? Prepare yourself for what may be inevitable and what may not be. Because how many times in life have we been able to, because we're aware and we're switched on, look, knowledge is the key. It's just knowledge. How much knowledge you have. You won't do this without knowledge. People think they're going to do it. Oh, I've trained for years. I can handle it. 99.9% of the times, if you put somebody in an environment, say, step on out, John or Bob or whatever your name is, you just said you trained for years and you're really good. I've actually heard all about you. You're a world champion and got all these trophies. I've heard all about you. Thanks for coming to the class. Thank you. Okay, John, so we're just talking. If you could come out here now, and I might have a dummy knife with me or something, and just as an example, and I go, it's really great. Oh, man, you didn't give me a heads up. No, I won't. I'm not going to give you a heads up. Who's going to give you a heads up? The criminals don't give you heads up. Violent attackers don't give you a heads up. They're looking for an advantage, and they're very clever. So you have to be just as clever. If you're clever, that means you have to use your mind, right?
Right.
If he's got mental tools, where are your mental tools? And that's combatives. That's combatives training. Yeah, it's physically, you learn physical stuff and how to do it, but you won't fully apply it unless you train that mindset to make that paradigm shift into that. And of course, like I said, just real quick, ultimately you want to de-escalate or avoid, right? Get out of there.
Yes.
So many people get deer in the headlights. They get stuck in a situation because they don't know where to go. Oh, now what? I guess I'll just wait till he throws the right punch and I'll do 5 swords. How do you know he's going to do it? You don't even know what he's going to do.
No,
and you've been training for 10 years on inanimate objects. Who throw a punch at you, stand there while you go through the motions. You know what I'm saying? So when you do your combatives training, you have to take it to the next level mentally and physically. So go ahead.
I just want to bring some comments because we only have 10 minutes left. Patricio Del Pino, salud to the maestros. Excellent interview from Chile. Gracias, Patricio. Saludos. International Hall of Fame. Saludos, maestros from Argentina. Salud. Gracias. Grandmaster Fabio Bevilacqua, all the way from Tenerife. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Big hug. Luis Gonzalez from Argentina. Salud. Maria Lopez, congratulations on the show. Thank you, Maria. Saludos hasta Argentina. Gracias. Okay. Mark R says, to piggyback on your Savannah example, did you know the human eye can see more shades of green than any other color? Jorn Malvo. or Lauren Marvel, sorry. Question is why we're still tuned for the jungle, just need to tap in. Yes, and there's a good example for that. I'm just going to share something. When you are used to, like, for example, here we have lots of ranches and stuff like that. When you're a city guy and you go into, outdoors environment, you don't see a thing. Especially here, that is more like desert. You don't see a thing. You think the desert is dead, right? You just see bushes. Once you start getting used to it, you start looking at the little lizards and the little bugs and the little birds and the snakes, and everything starts moving. It's amazing. It's like, whoa, right? And because what? You're getting used, and especially if somebody telling you what to look for, and then you start looking at the tracks, and then you start looking at everything, right? And the holes, and now you know, right? And that actually, when I was a kid, I used to go a lot to, to different outdoors and stuff like that. And a few years back, then I became a city guy, right? And then a few years back, we went driving to one of the places, and I looked and I didn't see a thing. And I'm like, damn, I haven't been here in a while. So it took me like 20 minutes or half an hour to start, seeing the animals again and all that. It takes you a while to tune back in. So that's why training is so important as well. Okay. Juan Martín Álvarez says, saludos, maestros. Saludos, maestro. Gracias. Marshall Rao, environmental awareness. Nice. Thank you, sir. Young Gonzalez says, my instructor once told me a fight unfought, it's a fight that's won. Great. Yeah. Smart man. Sure. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So, and the other thing I wanted to say is going back to what you were explaining. What I teach, it's more, I focus more in the use of force, right? Because of my, I'm an instructor of the police and all that stuff, and I'm a certified use of force instructor. So basically, when I'm teaching the police, sometimes, especially with the cadets, right? They don't know what to say, right? So the first level of force will be presence and verbalization, how to verbalize, how to talk. So to diffuse, dissuade, or persuade the person, right? And that takes skill, like, in the States they call it verbal judo or verbal jujutsu or whatever, right? It takes skills. And actually, a lot of the fights or the conflicts, I shouldn't say fights, because I don't know how to fight. I know how to defend and protect myself, right? Fighting is just another tool. A lot of the conflicts that I have had on the street, 90% of them at least, have ended with me just talking, because I'm aware, right? And I know where he's going, and I know, and I can see the cues. I can see the person getting there. I can see him, you can even listen his inner talk, right? In a way, because you know how violence works, and it's that inner talk. It's linear, and it's rising. It's going up. It's going up. It's going up. He's getting more violent and going violent, and probably convincing himself that he's going to attack you, or sometimes people justify themselves why they're attacking you. Some people just don't have those filters, and like you said, they're going to get a knife and just poke you with it. So anyway, it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because when I was in training in martial arts in my early years, which I love martial arts, we're very passionate martial artists, okay? But we never had that, I never had that verbal training. It was always like a technique line or sparring, or just going, with a partner, doing a technique or doing a move or learning a basic or whatever, but never the talking and the feeling and keeping the distance and stuff like that, which is, of course, and I know you do this as well, part of personal protection or self-defense training, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting. That's an interesting point, because we come up again. I'm just speaking from Kenpo, because that's our big thought. But what do we learn that? What did Parker say it is? It's the language of what? Motion, right? Kenpo's a language of motion. It's a science of motion. Blah blah blah. And it is, of course. Well, what other language? Why aren't we learning to speak? There are multiple languages. Why am I just learning the language of the physical? Is what I'm getting at. You saying yourself is that you never got that training. I didn't get it. My stuff came from all the philosophical training I had, all the psychologies and stuff I've studied and stuff like that. That's where my mental approach came from. And of course, obviously having a history of my own. But all the stuff that I talk about, I had to learn that. It's, you have some inherent skill stuff. You were saying earlier you're not a fighter. Well, I understand what you mean by that, but you are. We all are. You're a warrior. But I know what you were saying. I know what you were saying. So you go, well, because I know we don't have much time. You go, and this is more for anybody. I know you're already doing all this stuff, but two things. Just to piggyback on what you were saying. Training law enforcement and stuff like that is you are governed by rules. They are, you know what I mean. But the law enforcement, police officer on the street, although it's changing now, society's changing. Everybody's being feminized, and they are. I know it's going to piss a few people off, but they are, especially in Western culture. The police are being demonized. They're having their hands tied behind the back. Listen, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to have a line of police officers standing there in a uniform with shields or even just their billy clubs was enough of a deterrent to mobs so that they wouldn't push it. Today, the cops have had their balls cut off, and you got literally here in the States anyway, punks running up and spitting in their face, and they don't do anything, nothing. So, because they can't, their hands are tied. They'll get things thrown at them and stuff like that.
It's
society.
It's not easy being a cop these days. Not easy.
No, whether we like it or not, society's changing.
Oh yeah,
it's changing. I've been saying this for years, and people don't want to hear it. They're living in what I call elective denial. They elect to be in denial. I mean, put their head in the sand. But the reality of it is this: society's changing. The violence that's happening, it's germinating. I know it's already you have your experiences in Mexico, but for a society, most Western societies in Europe or in America, this is all new. The majority of people. What we went through last summer in 2020 with all the rioting here all year and all the looting, and we're still getting it now. It was a new experience for most Americans. They're like, wow. And it affected the psyche of the nation. I don't care what anybody says. It affected a general election. That's how powerful that is. Well, unless people tune into that and go, I need to step up my game. Now, real quick, if you have because we'll go back to it just real quick. You have a dojo. You're in business. You can't. You don't want to make these kids little killers, and you don't want the adults to come in and make them kill, or even just scare them back out the door. But you have to develop a system. Anybody can do this. It's just all knowledge. You've got to learn or hire somebody like you, me, come in and give you some points that you can start, and then you can go do it yourself. But you have to introduce that at some point. If you don't, I'm telling you, you're going to get out there and you're going to think you're a badass, and then you're going to end up in hospital because times are changing.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add to what you're saying. Yes, and don't kid yourself. Don't fool yourself. Not because you're a black belt in Kenpo or any art, it means that you're ready for the street. I mean,
yeah, you gotta be ready. You gotta be like, again, I have my things in my system. I used my terminology, the way I structure it. We gave examples. We brought that up earlier. People want to go see. Because the DEF CON stuff's not on my website, it's in the manuals and stuff. But I pay for that anyway, whatever. But you can go and find it out for yourself and develop your own thing. You don't have to come to me for it. But unless you have a full conceptual understanding of that, and then understand too that the environments are changing, times are changing. It's not like it used to be. People are getting more and more violent. And a lot of that has to do with the internet. I mean, I see a lot of things happen now in America that I only used to see because I've been watching this stuff for years on the internet, like captured video footage and of violent confrontations, of mob violence, of guns, knives, all that stuff, because that's part of my job to study that stuff. You know what I mean? Well, you only used to see that coming out of third world countries. That kind of behavior. That's here now. I know, in Mexico, you got your.
It's everywhere
here now.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere now. I mean, I used to watch videos. I'll give you an example where you'd see something happen. It could just be a car wreck in Brazil or something, because there's a lot of car wrecks in Brazil, and there, people drive crazy, and and not to. I'm just going to tell you, and there'd be bodies everywhere and body parts everywhere, or there'd be people trapped in cars. Help! Blah blah blah. And this could be anywhere, and this could. And what have you got? You've got a dozen or a score of people standing around with their cell phones, filming it. Nobody's helping. I used to watch that and go, get them out, pull them out. You know what I mean? Help them, stop the bleeding. Even if you're not trained to, you can at least put some pressure on it. They're bleeding out. And people don't. They just stand there talking on their phones, and then they upload it to the. Well, we have that here now in the States. People do it now in the States. You see it. They're just watching. There was an incident happened here down by the beach, one of our beach cities here in Hermosa a few weeks ago, and it was brutal. I saw it. Somebody posted it, but I thought, people just. And this is you go down there, and it's a really nice restaurants and people, but that an element got in, and there was just violence, and this happened to this one guy that was out cold, and they're kicking him in the head and jumping on him, and everybody's just filming it, laughing. Times have changed. You have to change with the times. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but like I said, that's the R factor. That's your reality factor. So if you're going to train in Kenpo, any martial arts system, which you have to train in something. If you're going to do that, you have to then, once you've learned its techniques, you have to train the application in the environment. Do you know what I mean? So you can't do that. Thanks, Marshall. You can't do that without combatives training. It's just, you just can't, because it's not addressed in like you said, it's not addressed in your traditional martial arts. It isn't.
And I just want to add something to the R factor, right? You talk the reality factor. I use the word, for me, it will be the responsible factor. You got to be responsible for your own safety. You got to be responsible for protecting yourself. You got to learn how to respond to any of those situations, not just react, respond, be tactical, have a strategy, be operational, right? That will be the term I use a lot. So
I'm going to say now too that people might disagree. Probably fucking a lot of people are going to disagree. I don't care. The only way that you're going to stop this and put civilization back into, get civilized society civil again, is for people to push back. Now, I'm not saying get out there and start fighting the enemy and blah, blah, blah. But people, they're in denial. They think it's just going to go away. This is just history repeating. It's all it is. It's just history repeating. And the way that we became civilized is we fought back against it. You look through anything in history, we went, you know what? That destructive element is destroying our civilization and our society. We have to stand up and push back. If more people did that and understand, because that's part of self-defense training too. You don't have to get physical. My analogy about the cops earlier is now we have it where people don't respect it. Back in the day, not that long ago, that line of police officers would show up and people would just, all right, they would respect that authority and they wouldn't go around looting and burning and killing and all that stuff we went through last year,
Sir, we are out of time.
It goes like that.
Okay, so we have the Facebook page here. If you want to know more, Street Combative System, look for Brye Cooper. Look for the SKS logo. Okay, that's the quality certified logo. Yes, sir. Okay, so look for that and learn from the men. He also has a website, streetcombativesystem.com. Okay, and I gotta say, if you are interested in adding this to your curriculum, to your training, to your dojo, to your studio, if you're in the state, look out for Mr. Cooper. I highly suggest this. I mean this. This is good. We're not against martial arts. We are totally in favor of. We're passionate martial artists, both of us. We just believe that it has to have that. Also, if you have it, great. If not, we can help you out. Okay. Steve Gregan says, great topic, gents. Mindset, truth must be part of the training from the beginning. You guys are keeping the flame. Thank you, sir. And spreading the fire. Yes, sir. Okay, so thank you very much, mate. If you want to add something just before we go.
No, I mean, it's great. Another great hour. The mate goes too fast, doesn't it? We could talk about it for hours. Just, if I may add one thing, I'll just repeat it, actually. Like I said, anybody who's competent can start doing this. I highly suggest, like I said, if you don't come to somebody like myself, Frank, or somebody like that, just start learning yourselves and start implementing that into your curriculum. It's gonna not only enhance you and your students, but it's gonna enhance our society. To be quite honest with you, you know what I mean. Bullies won't stand up to people who can defeat them. And we're just going through that shift right now in society. That it just needs to be strong people need to stand up and just be.
Yes, and be aware. And thank you for adding that. We don't promote violence. We don't believe in violence against violence. It's to become strong. That's what it is. Be a strong person. Have toughness, right? Be ready. That's it. Be responsible.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
Yes, that is. Thank you. Thank you, everybody that watched this. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you next week. We have a couple of good guests coming in. Don't miss it. We'll do the announcement by the weekend or the beginning of next week. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. Take care, guys.